2025. She is seeking once again to represent citizens in Ward 4, Easton Town Council. She is back. Remember when Jordan made that comeback?
Mm-hmm.
This is
with the 45.
Yeah, she's coming back with the 45 on her back. Yes. The Honorable Moonyene Jackson, Esquire. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. That is so wonderful. I just feel so privileged. I appreciate you having me on and having an opportunity to speak to your audience and my audience.
Yes. So, first and foremost, thank you as well for spending taking some time out of your day to come spend with us. But I know everybody, including all of your followers and those who follow you, but also our listeners too. They heard so much. We talked about you earlier during the show. I'm on the show previous to our show, and of course they just heard that bio. It says brief bio, but that's one heck of a bio right there.
That's a crazy bio.
Yeah. But so what made you want to come back into this crazy world? I don't care if it's local, state, or on the federal level. Politics is politics, and you know how crazy it can get. And you're at the point of your life where you could just kick your feet up and chill. But what make you want to come back into it?
Well, let me just say this, that I never left working and helping the constituents in the state of Maryland, Virginia, Massachusetts. I just have never done that in New Jersey. But with respect to this to Maryland, I stepped down in 2008 to try to get this young brother to run. He did run to support him in his quest for public service. And then in February of this year, I got a call that tenants were being unceremoniously evicted without any due process. So I got in my car and started riding. It was on Blake Street. That's where it was. But by the time I got there, they had already packed and gone. But some of the bystanders gave me a blow-by-blow. And I said, well, I was called. Did they call, or did any of you call the sitting councilman? Did you call the mayor? Did you seek any kind of support? Because they can't just be evicted. I don't care what the reason is without going through the court process. So none of them did. And, you know, that has been what it's been. I've been called many times to help bring resolutions to issues in our community. And quite frankly, many of the citizens don't feel comfortable going to the courthouse, going to the council meetings or approaching the council. And many of them don't even really know who it is. And so, but they know me. And so, I don't know, I got fired up, as they say. In February, I said, no, we just can't have this. And so my effort has always been to speak for the voiceless, and I decided that I can at least try again and bring some attention to the fact that we need help. You know, many of us are part of the 99% that's not wealthy, that's not able to just flash money for whatever we want. Many of us need support, you know. And then I thought about the Social Security issue, honey child. If that goes, that's a problem for me. So I've got to try to be creative and help other people be creative. I know too many who are balancing Medicare and Medicaid. Again, you know, we need to be resourceful. So I decided that if nothing more, I could at least try to fire up that council, those people who have agreed to represent all of us, and to see that they can do better. And it's not just Ward 4, but what's good for Ward 4 will be good for Easton. I can tell you that.
Yeah. You being on the front lines for quite some time. What do you see today in 2025 that's different compared to, in the 60s and 70s and 80s, if at all anything different?
Well, sadly, we're regressing back to pre-60s. Okay, that's what I see.
Pre-60s.
And you feel like no, seriously, and you feel, and many of us, have a conversation, and we say, all of that work, all of that protesting, all of that sitting in, all of that marching, all of that writing for equality and engagement in the process seems to have gone for naught. But I can tell you this, that as an African-American woman and person, we've been here before, and we constantly are struggling to keep our heads above float, And so this is not, what I did say to somebody was, the whole country is going to be where I have been. More people are going to feel the crunch of this of the situation that's being created by the federal administration. So, unfortunately, I don't feel up to marching. No, wasn't a marcher anyway. I just have a whole other technique, but we won't discuss that. Right. But those who are standing out and marching out, I do support them. I did participate in Indivisible in Cambridge to see what they were doing, and one of the congressmen, Jamie Raskin, came and we had some words and some good conversation, and there was just a good vibration there. People are going to stand up and fight for their very livelihood. So to answer your direct question, unfortunately, I see too much of a parallel of what happened before the 60s, before we decided that we weren't going to take it anymore.
For the listeners and for those who sometimes they think they're, okay, I go vote and that's it. But for those who, some people are like, okay, what do I do after I vote? Speak to those people, what the importance of the work comes after the vote. So what can the average person do to participate in this process?
Okay, definitely vote. And your reason for voting may be different from mine, but I won't go into that right now. But vote, because you can't get people like me into office without it. That's the process. And when we get there, you need to hold our feet to the fire and make us do the things that you think are important for your life. But on a better note, we had good schools before there was integration, right?
Yes.
We had our teachers, we had our doctors, we had people who cared for the welfare of our community. We need to get back together. I heard somebody say we need to develop our tribe again, and so that we can know how to lean on each other. And so so we start with identifying some of the teachers, maybe even those retired, and have your classes. Maybe in some of these churches that are not being utilized on Sundays, right? There's a place for us to go. And then I think we have to be in coalition with people, white, black, Hispanic, Native American, everyone who has the same idea of humanity surviving in decency and in order. And those coalitions are forming, but I think that becomes important, and you can't beat the citizens when they rise up and take control. And we need to start on the local level because, even though the Trump administration is dismantling a lot, one of the things I want to find out is how is it going to redound to the detriment of those of us on the local level. So we need to make sure that our local officials have in place or have in mind, ideas to keep us from suffering more, and how do we short circuit some of this chaos that it has formulated. I spoke a couple of days ago to a gentleman who is the head of the Veterans Administration. I've always had a passion for veterans, and my late husband, was a Marine, and I used to do a lot of pro bono work for the veterans in New Jersey. But anyway, I was speaking to him about that situation, the health situation, and the homelessness. And so we've agreed to talk and see if there is a strategy that I can help implement in Easton. One of our constituents has talked about Terrence Bailey, and you know him, has talked about utilizing the hospital that's going to be revamped, but turn it into a facility that would be more veteran oriented and sensitive. So that's a wonderful thing to think about.
Yeah.
So these are the kinds of things that I think we have to do. We can't just be afraid and just be fussing about this man. I tell you the truth, I am not so concerned. I have a faith base that makes me know that everything's going to be all right. I want to break into song. He didn't bring me this far just to leave me.
Hey,
okay, so
I
truly believe that. And so what we need to do is to just look at what's happening, make sure we understand who our neighbors are, be responsible for helping each other. Let me tell you something. And I want to give a shout out. I'm not going to do it by name, but I have some wonderful people who are helping me, and not only in the campaign, but they check on me to see how I'm doing. I don't have my relatives here, so I've adopted a whole bunch,
Yes,
and they've adopted me. So that's part of the strategy. How do we do? I want to find out who can plant food for a garden. I have a strip right in the back. They can plant something, and we need to organize food buying together, because some of the food banks are being closed down, and people will be hungry. So those are the things. They may not seem glamorous, but those are the things that keep us standing.
Yes, indeed. It's Yours Radio, live 97.5, everything urban. Breakfast Club in the morning, Ryan Banks at night. Donnie O, Devin Beck. We have with us on the live line Moonyene Jackson, who's running for town council in Easton. And one of the things you mentioned, you said quite a bit, and one of the things that stuck out to me is when you talked about what we had prior to now, as far as the black community. We pretty much owned everything in the community. Now we hardly own anything in the black community. I mean, we had our own schools, like you mentioned, the businesses, even banks and hospitals. Do you feel like, because I hear a lot of folks, even some younger folks, been talking about this, and not just, it popped up here recently because of what's going on with this current administration, but do you feel like we did a disservice by integrating back in the 60s to our people?
I just have to say a very definite yes. I was asked to be one of the first to integrate in the schools where I grew up in Virginia, and I said no. And because I knew that there was a high expectation for me. Now, that doesn't mean that integration shouldn't happen at some point along the lines, but I believe in the formative years, the early years of our lives, and even of anyone's life, they should be with the people who can teach them not only the math and science, but also culture. What we know of our culture and what we respect keeps us fortified. If you know who you are fortified. There's nobody that can tell me that I have no worth. I know that I do. And I'm not trying to prove anything to anyone, but what we need to instill in our young people a sense of pride and the sense of understanding of the contributions that we have made to the world while they're struggling so hard to keep us apart, while they're struggling so hard to keep our the knowledge of African experiences and contributions away from the entire community. I think all in the community should know about each other. I really pride myself on knowing not just my culture, but songs and music and information in other people's cultures too, because I do respect that.
Yeah.
So I just think that there was no such thing as integration. What happened was a devastation and elimination of the African American experience from the teaching that was going on in these various institutions. And so I think that still is part of the problem today.
Yeah, man. I never heard it put that way.
But you know what? We can't keep letting it happen. And let me just say this. The Moton, I'm so disappointed that the Moton School was torn down. And they say, oh, they couldn't save it. That's not true.
No, they could have saved
you
it.
know,
Yeah.
and the name is gone. And then and all of the references to that particular time, era, and institution. In Farmville, Virginia, there's a Russell Moton museum.
Okay.
And and that should have been repeated here because our teachers were good, and whether they were good or they weren't, they were giving us the resources that we need, you know, to build a better life.
Yeah, yeah. What taking it back? What? Because you at the age of 15, you went to the you were at in D.C. at the March on Washington. What was it?
Yes.
What was it in you that at such an early age that wants you to literally like, I want to be on the front line. I want to be engaged.
Well, you know what? It's so funny. I don't know exactly how to answer that except to say this. I was always outspoken, but I was outspoken with a prepared contribution. And I spoke it in school. I spoke it in churches. I did those kinds of things. And actually, I was asked by, I can hear that noise. I don't know. I was asked by the head of the NAACP at that time if I would go and my partner at that time, Larry Smith. When I say partner, he had a similar outlook. As a matter of fact, he's an internationally renowned dancer and performer. He's living in Paris right now.
Okay.
But my point is that we were demonstrating leadership at the high school level. And so the beautiful part of it is that our parents trusted us to ride on the bus to D.C., to conduct ourselves as we had been trained properly, to be able to take notes to the extent that we could. And we had very different experiences. You know, I was met by, her name was Tara. I remember that. She was a Jewish woman. It's the first time, not the first time that I'd met a Jewish person, but up close and personal in that way. And they met me, and Larry had to go to where the Bohemians was living. And the funny part, he was scared to death. But he told that himself. But somehow I wasn't fazed by it, you know. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, I wanted to do that, and I wanted to come back, and I wanted to make sure that of a way to challenge the system, which I did. Mm-hmm. You know, I contacted the high school to see if we could debate them, and they said no because of integration, and because of segregation. Mm-hmm. And we had basketball teams where our boys would play outside against their teams on public courts. You know, that was just something they picked up. Mm-hmm. But they couldn't do it within the school system, right?
Okay.
And so, anyway, I'm going round Robin Hood's mind. But I just looked at it that I had something to say, and I wasn't planning on not saying it.
Yeah. Well, you've been saying a lot ever since, and we thank you for that.
I know it's the truth, and probably I tried to shut up for 17 years from 2008 to now, but here I am again.
No, we need your voice, and we need your voice, that's for sure. It's Yours Radio, live 97.5, Everything Urban, Breakfast Club in the morning, Ryan Banks at night, Donnie O, Devin Beck. We have with us on the live line the Honorable Moonyene Jackson, Esquire, again running for Easton Town Council. And Beck, you've been listening intently. And,
yes.
So I know you want to add something to the conversation.
No, when she was talking about it, to me, what hit me is when she was talking about the integration part. And going to a HBCU, like coming from a predominantly white area with white teachers, and then going to a HBCU and having black professors, what a difference that made in my education, right? And I think it's important, and I always encourage a lot of our young black males and females to go to HBCUs because that experience for them might be completely different than what they got, on the shore. Because, I mean, obviously we're always looking to diversify our classrooms, but we know what those numbers look like. And so I think it makes a huge difference in our education.
Definitely.
Well, let me just say, both my parents, my father finished Morehouse, my mother Spelman and Stillman, and my brothers and sisters Morehouse and Morgan. But I didn't go. My eldest brother convinced me to come to school in Boston. And let me tell you the reason that was good. And I was there were 5 of us. And I had a wonderful college experience, to tell you the truth. But I had to organize the first black student group on campus. That was during the 60s when everything was going on the campus. But the reason that I went there, because get this, in my time, my undergraduate degree was in speech pathology and audiology. And many of the colleges didn't think that black people should be dealing with language therapy.
Wow.
Okay, speech and language therapy. So most of my friends went to Hampton and Howard. Both of them had excellent speech pathology and audiology programs. But I knew that I would not, but they didn't get hired as speech clinicians, right? They were hired only to teach speech at that time. So I decided that I had to be able to be flexible and be a clinician because I wanted to be a speech therapist. So I went to Emerson and I finished, well, and I did become a speech clinician. So that was the reason that I made that decision. But I went to the community in Roxbury and Dorchester, and that's where I worked. And then I pledged Alpha Kappa Alpha over there in a community chapter.
I'm an alpha. I'm an alpha out of Delta Nu at UMES.
So, listen, I can sing your song. I was Alpha Kappa.
Hey, yeah. I knew I liked you.
Well, my father and both my brothers were Alpha, so.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
A5.
So A5. Let me tell you, dear, A5.
That's what I'm talking about.
I grew up on that song before I knew the Africa song.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
The Black National Anthem.
Very different. I want to shout out then to one of my field directors is my soror, Stephanie Chester. And so she's really doing a great job. And there's another woman, I have a lot. I hated this. I shouldn't be shouting out anybody because then you leave somebody out. Okay.
Didn't shout me out.
Adrian Hyatt, who is not an African American, but I tell you, she works like a Trojan. And so many others. But anyway, back to the influence. I know that the sorority and fraternities do a lot of good, But I do have a concern, and that is that they don't know how to creatively advocate. They're worried about their charter. They're worried about, how they're being perceived, and some of them think that I'm too vocal. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I'll put it that way. But I have had great relationships, and where I was made an Epsilon chapter in Boston, and they've written a book, and they have a really nice thing about what the community service. Now they're doing some excellent community service, and they're doing some here too. Mm-hmm. But I think that the influence of the sororities and fraternities should be stronger. Mm. We should be on the front lines. We're part of the most educated in the country. Mm-hmm. And our job right now should be, how do we make sure that our brothers and sisters don't suffer a lack of education? How can we pool our resources? I haven't seen that yet. That's what they need to do, and that's what I'm hoping they will.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Continue.
No. And now, of course, on the college campus, I'm sure it was a very different experience. In the community where I was pledged, it was not the same. But I had a wonderful big sister and that I would hide from. So let me just tell you that too. I was very fearful. I wasn't trying to do any of that menial stuff. I didn't do it either. But anyway, I mean, that's part of it. And I don't believe in harsh pledging and all that. I don't believe in that. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if I'm answering your question. What I think is that we need to take a more dedicated community support and a more collaborative one, so that we can be the brick wall against which our folks can lean.
Yeah, and you made a great point, because I feel with the sororities and fraternities, they that's one of their pillars, is the organizing part. They do a great job of organizing. That's one of the things that we don't do so great at, as organizing,
right.
As a people. And again, when I say as a people, I don't mean just black folks, but like you mentioned, we have allies with white folks and Hispanics and like you said, Native Americans and Asians and all of us, you know what I'm saying? So if nothing else, what we've seen these last few months is we're more alike than we are not, if you're not part of that ultra rich 1%, you know what I'm saying? So and we look at the Republican side. I mean, they started off with when Obama was in office and they felt like they was losing that country, they created the Tea Party. They organized with that, and then it became the MAGA cult, and they're back in office. They back in control again. So we have to take a page out of their book, not what they did, but as far as organizing and coming together collectively and putting aside our differences and looking at look at the big picture. Like, this is affecting so many of us, and they've done a great job of the divide and conquer. We play a big role in it. The things that we do and don't do. But the organizing part, that's why I brought up the Greek, the pledges and stuff, because they do a great job at it. I've seen them firsthand. I've never pledged, but I've seen it firsthand, being in, like Beck said, we went to the same university, HBCU, and I was just amazed at, the organization. And if we can have just a percentage of the organizing that they do, we'll be good going forward. What's your GoFundMe again? Because I want to promote that too, not just during the show, but throughout.
Okay, Moonyene Jackson at GoFundMe.com.
Okay. All right. Cool. I got it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you talked about the housing. I know that's been a hot topic, particularly in Easton, because there's nowhere. I ain't gonna say nowhere, but it's been an issue. Not just finding places to rent, because everybody doesn't want to buy. You know what I mean? So particularly you got to, especially, it's building up so much. You got the hospital coming, and Terrence and I talked about that too. About that was a great idea too. That would be great because I asked like, what's going to happen with that the old hospital? I mean, that's could be utilized, and Terrence had mentioned that about the being for the veteran hospital, which makes sense because you have the one in I think it's Perryville. I think that's the closest one. And then you have one in Virginia, but Easton would be great for the shore because it'd be right in the middle. So that would be a great idea for there. But I know housing has been an issue for a lot of folks because, you have the elementary school. And Beck, I know you can attest to this because you being with the Board of Education, and you have a lot of entry-level teachers coming in, and they're looking to rent, and they find nice quality places that's affordable, and a lot of those places are hard to come by now. They're building up now, but I've seen I was just on Facebook literally this morning, and I'm making a post about the show, and I seen this big long argument about I'm not going to say I know the person that owns these apartments. I'm not going to go and say that, but just that conversation was some folks were saying that the rent was too high, and others were saying, nah, that's market value. Like that's what you're going to pay for in 2025. You're not going to be the days of $750, $800, rent is done. So unless it's subsidized, and so that's been an issue, and they talk about it's not too big, it's not big enough, and just going into that. So it's definitely a hot topic. Quality, good rentals in the area. Just having access to it, and just the quality of it. So, and you coming on board, dear sister, is perfect timing because if anybody can help rectify it, you can.
So that's my goal. I mean, the rents are too prohibitive and totally unnecessary. And then they're building. Listen, I don't think these folks have found a blade of grass that they can't build something on. It really aggravates me. But the thing that's so terrible about it is that they're building not for the locals. Not the people who live here, people who come from other places, and I did too, but you come from other places and then you want to bring ideas that really impact the economy negatively. And there's what is the reason that one man should own 40% of all the properties downtown? Now, my ward covers quite a bit of downtown, which means that the rest of the population will either greatly benefit or greatly suffer, based on what the town council and the county what they decide to do in these public spaces. And
you talking
so
about
somebody
Prager.
has to try to stem.
Old Prager. I said, that's old Prager. Prager said, I'm going to own all the downtown Easton before I'm done.
Well, listen, that's.
Go ahead. What you say to him? What you say to him? It ain't happening on my watch. Tell him.
Well, the thing about it is that's already happened, and I was, but we need to stem the tide.
Yeah.
Right. We need to stem the tide, and then then on the other side of Port Street where there was a lot of low income, but fairly decent housing that needed to be upgraded. Here they come in with displacing all of these tenants, saying, "Okay, you can come back," but once you move, how are you going to come back?
They're not coming back.
And particularly when the rents are astronomical.
Yeah. Then
at the end of Port Street, where I live, they have this beautiful apartment building, but nobody that I know so far that has been able to afford to live there. So they want to gentrify this entire area, which was formerly an African American area, and so my concern years ago was, and this is what I tried to institute, that those people who lived here, who wanted to live here. There's some housing available, and they need to get first dibs. And so what I instituted at that time, and the council went along with it, was that the developer had to portion off 25% low-income housing. So then the mayor, after I left, said, no, they don't want to mix low-income with, wealthy people. I said, well, you can make the same apartment and charge less. There are plenty of people who would go into those apartments if they are reasonable. Mm-hmm. They're not going to have issues with living with, and the very wealthy are not going to want to be there anyway.
Right. Yeah.
So, but the point is they didn't want to do that. Mm-hmm. What they, meaning the mayor and council at that time, and what has continued has been to let these developers come in and give a certain percentage of money that will go to renovation. But that's not necessarily giving new housing to people who want to buy, or providing sufficient funds for those who want to have decent, affordable living as a rental. So somebody has got to try to make a way or create one. And it's not happening.
Yeah. It's funny because I live, you're talking about Port Street, so I live in Patriot Square, behind that building you're talking about, the Arc. It used to be Douglas Landing, where you named a couple of the streets back there. But yeah, so that's where I live back there. And I get texts, probably every couple of weeks I get text messages about selling my house. And I'm not selling it, and then I hear other people in the area that own homes is like, yeah, I get approached quite often about selling my home, and so they're definitely trying to gentrify that entire area as much as they can. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I have a friend who owns there, but I'm glad you do. And make sure you tell folks you register to vote in my ward.
Yeah, there you go. You just told them. Register in Ward 4.
I know, right?
Easton. You know what I mean?
Well,
Hey.
I don't think you should do that advertising on the phone, but I can do it.
Yeah, you can. That's what you're here for. And when is the election?
May 6th.
May 6th. Okay.
It's from, try to be there by 7 a.m. or, out throughout the night. Don't wait till 7 p.m. to get there. I don't want the doors to close, even though they're usually still voting at that time.
Oh, yep. Get that word out there.
And thank you both. I really appreciated this opportunity.
You're welcome. I'll be talking to you soon.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay,
Thank you.
Care. You're welcome. All right. That was the good sister, the Honorable Moonyene Jackson, Esquire, who's back. Well, she never really left, as she said, but she's officially back on the battleground, and hopefully she can get those votes, get back in there. I'm gonna tell you, they in 2008, a lot of them, they were glad she left. They were scared of her. Yeah. But she hold them accountable, though.
Putting that pressure on.
Yeah, she would definitely hold them accountable at that council, town council. So I'm glad to see that she's back in the mix. And got her hands full, though, that's for sure.
Oh, man. different landscape, but some people just talk about it, other people are built for it.
Mm-hmm. And she's definitely one of them that's built for it.
Yep.
And